New Year. Today is Monday, January 4th, 2021. I highlighted the 2021. This is the Westwood Select Board. It is now 5 p.m. and our meeting will begin. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 23rd, 2020 emergency order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation by the board. This meeting is live streamed by the Westwood Media Center and is available in their archives for viewing. A number of people have reached out this afternoon to ask us about the order of tonight's business, specifically regarding public participation. So I have a very brief chairs update, and then I expect that we will be going into executive session to discuss ongoing litigation. And we will be returning to open session. And during open session, we will have a public comment question period. I don't expect that public commentary or question period to begin before 5:30. Obviously, people are welcome to stay on as long as they wish, but there will be a period of time where we will not be visible. So I wanted to just level set and give people some idea of tonight's proceeding. So with that, I will jump into the chairs update. This is the final week for the Carby Street cardboard only dumpster at the Department of Public Works location 50 Carby Street. The remaining days and times this week are January 5th, 6th, and 7th from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Residents can dispose of cardboard only. Please no trash, wrapping paper, twist ties, styrofoam. They cannot be accepted. It will contaminate the dumpster. I know I went last week and I waited in a nice line, but it was nice to get rid of all of that cardboard. For those who have natural Christmas trees, the Department of Public Works will be picking up Christmas trees on your weekly trash collection day through January 15th. Please have Christmas trees at your curbside by 7 a.m. on your regularly scheduled trash pickup day. All trees must be free of plastic bags, stands, ornaments, hooks, tinsel, and all other material to be accepted for collection. With that, I will conclude the chair's update. And I will ask if anybody has any other issues. Otherwise, I will ask for adjournment to executive session.
Do we have the script, Jen? Do you want to read the script or do you want me to?
At this time, the select board will be going to executive session. The select board will be going to executive session to discuss one issue pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to ongoing litigation, discussion of which would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governing body if conducted in open session. This board will be returning to open session.
So I move we go into executive session for the aforementioned reason.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Mrs. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. So the board will be exiting at this point to go into executive session, and we will be returning. January 4th, 2021. It is 5:39 p.m. This is the Westwood Select Board returning from executive session. The next agenda item is an open meeting discussion regarding litigation involving the siting of the Amazon distribution warehouse on University Avenue in Norwood. And I want to take an opportunity to review both the substantive issues that the Select Board has dealt with in regards to the siting of this site and the process by which we have reached tonight's vote. For some background, on July 13th, 2020, the Town of Norwood's Planning Board approved an Amazon distribution site at the former MS Walker distribution site on University Avenue in Westwood. This board and Westwood's town staff took exception to the fact that no notice was provided to the Town of Westwood. It was our collective belief that notice to the town was necessary. National Development and the Town of Norwood disagreed, and the Town of Westwood filed suit in Norfolk Superior Court to preserve our town's rights. Over the months that have ensued, we have had to assess what a victory in court would look like, the likelihood of achieving a victory, and also what a loss in court might mean. First, this property in question is entirely within the Town of Norwood and the town of Norwood has the right to determine the necessary permitting required for this site. We continue to disagree about whether Westwood had a lawful right to notice of this project. We could continue that dispute in lengthy and costly litigation, but we need to assess what a victory would actually look like. If we were successful in court, the matter would most likely be sent back to the town of Norwood, and Westwood's interests would be heard, but the ultimate outcome would unlikely change, and that outcome would almost entirely be in Norwood's hands. At a minimum, it is disappointing that neither National Development or the town of Norwood took any action to seek input from Westwood on a project that will clearly impact our infrastructure and our residents. There was clearly no consideration for the interests of the town of Westwood. This entire episode is unfortunate as well as avoidable. This board, when assessing the impacts to the town of Westwood, identified three major issues: traffic, lighting, and noise. This agreement before us tonight addresses these issues. With regards to traffic, National Development and Amazon have agreed to specifically direct its employees and contractors to adhere to a no left turn signage onto Everett Street. Amazon has agreed to utilize available GPS technology to program all delivery vehicles to restrict travel on Forbes, Everett, and Canton Streets in Westwood, other than for local deliveries to addresses on those particular streets. Amazon has committed to continue this process with their employees to print out actual maps to highlight employees that hire and during the course of their employment. Amazon has agreed to employ a yard marshal at this particular property with the duty to take appropriate action to prevent Amazon-related delivery traffic, including independent flex drivers, from traveling on residential streets other than for local deliveries. Amazon has agreed to provide the town of Westwood, and in particular Westwood's police chief, with appropriate contact information for local and regional Amazon operations staff to address any deviations from this agreement. With regards to lighting, Amazon will install and permanently maintain fully opaque shields on all wall-mounted and pole-mounted light fixtures, which are visible from any abutting residential property in Westwood, so that the direct light sources in these fixtures are not visible at a point 3 feet above ground level. Our town Economic Development Director, Nora Loughnane, is here with us this evening. She will speak after me to talk a little bit more about the technicalities of the lighting remediation. With regards to noise, there had been discussion about a noise wall. We were informed during this process that there is a wetland issue in this particular area. The parties have agreed to allow the town of Westwood, with regulatory approval from Norwood, to plant $35,000 worth of trees around areas of the property. This will limit the noise and the visual of the Amazon site. The selection and siting of these trees will be under the direction of Westwood staff. It is again important to note that a victory in extended litigation would mean that we would have standing in the town of Norwood's permitting process. Norwood would be required to hear and assess Westwood's interests and possibly offer relief to our concerns. A loss in court would mean that Westwood is left with nothing to show for our efforts. There is no viable legal solution to preventing the Amazon site from opening. The question for this board was whether we could seek mitigation to the traffic, noise, and lighting issues. The court would never order any of these things, and it is very unclear that Norwood would ever make these requirements on their own. We believe that we have reached an agreement that we will vote upon tonight. It is important to note that this issue arose last summer. Members of the select board and town staff held varying perspectives on the best course of action to deal with this issue. Through many meetings, idea sharings, and collaboration, we coalesced around a strategy that I believe protects the interests of the town in the best possible manner. I recognize that this is not an end for those whose property adjoins this location, and we will continue to ensure that Westwood's interests are protected. I want to thank all of the residents of Westwood who have reached out in collaborative and constructive conversations, as well as the town's staff. All residents should be proud that our town manager, our assistant town manager, directors at the most senior level of our town have all had input into this process. And my colleagues and I have worked collaboratively through this. We have listened, and we believe we have done the best that we can. So I will end with that. As I had said, I was going to ask Nora to talk a little bit about the technicalities of lighting, and then I will have my colleagues speak, and we will open it up to some public questions and comment.
Thank you. So one of the things we asked for when we first began talking to Norwood and to Amazon was a photometric plan that shows the intended lighting levels on abutting properties and on the site for all the light fixtures that are on the property. So those include pole fixtures as well as wall fixtures that are attached to the Amazon building. We received that photometric plan, and it showed that the light levels on abutting properties were well below the requirement in Norwood. To verify that, I went out to the site and I met with Amy and Danielle, and we took light meter readings in their yards, which did bear out the results of the photometric plan, showing that there was less than 0.1 to 0.2 foot candles in any of their yards. However, despite the fact that the light levels were very low, there was clearly glare that was emanating from the fixtures, because you would, if you were standing on properties on the Strasser Road in their rear yards, you could actually see the bulbs, the light sources emanating from the Amazon facility. So what we suggested was that they could put light shields on those fixtures, and we negotiated for some time now with Amazon and with National Development, and they are agreeing to put opaque light fixtures. They can be dark plastic, they can be aluminum, it doesn't really matter, whatever material they make them of. There'll be a shield that they put onto the fixture so that when you're standing on one of the abutting properties, you can't see the light source. You'll still see light coming out of the fixture, and that light will be shining down onto the Amazon facility, but you won't see the fixture itself, so you won't get that glare in your eyes. We've done this at several properties in Westwood, and it's extremely effective. So when you have the light shield and you can't see the light source, then you're not as disturbed by the fact that there's light. The light stays on the property where it has to be. There's still a glow around it, but it's not light coming into your eyes. And we negotiated language so that the requirement is allowing for the town to measure the light source levels at 3 feet above ground on the property line. So what that does is it actually allows you, if you were sitting right on your property line in a chair, even while sitting, you would not see that light source. And if you're standing, you wouldn't either. So that's a standard that we have used on other properties. It's effective, and I believe this will really make quite an impact once we see these light shields put in place.
Thank you, Nora. Michael or Nancy?
Well, John, I was wondering if we could ask our special counsel, Brian Winter, to explain what position the town had in this litigation versus what the residents might have going forward. Or Brian, to the extent you can
Right.
clarify so my question makes more sense.
Brian, will you just introduce yourself before you start?
We're happy to, and thank you for the handoff. So for the record and for people virtually attending who aren't familiar with me, my name's Brian Winter. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Mead, Tallerman and Costa, and it's been my privilege and pleasure to support the town as special counsel on this matter for some time now. So to respond to your question, let me just back up a little bit and perhaps provide a little bit of context. So what this is in terms of litigation is a zoning appeal that was brought in the name of the town. And the reason why that's very important is because the town acts as a property owner in a case like this. And the interest it looks out for is its interest as a property owner within the zoning context. So the underlying permit is a site plan approval for a by right use. So that's the only thing Norwood was looking at, and it's the only thing the court would ever look at on appeal. So the interest that we were looking out for in filing such an appeal, and the only one we had standing to bring, was that as a property owner, as a municipal corporation that happens to own roads. So with that, the only thing the court would look at is what interest could have been harmed by the issuance of this site plan approval. So we approached this case through that lens. Now, I should mention, and I think Mr. Hagee touched on this in your opening remarks, that we had to weigh, what a court could do for a town with this kind of standing versus any other party, and what a court couldn't do. So the court could only look at by right zoning concerns, and they could only look at how those zoning concerns affect the town of Westwood as a property owner with an interest in the roadways. So that's very, very different than what some people might see as a sort of traditional abutters appeal, because we don't own residences, we don't own, you know, facilities or anything that abut this property. So had abutting parcel owners brought an appeal, or if there's some, you know, opportunity for you know, any kind of issue to arise in the future or a challenge to arise in the future, you know, someone who owns abutting property, whoever that might be, and who was aggrieved or affected by what was happening on the Amazon site might have completely different standing, and they might have other issues to raise. For example, you know, the noise impacts might be different, screening impacts might be different, but that would be their legal interest in what's going on at the development site, and that's very distinct from what the town of Westwood has. So I can't obviously offer, you know, legal advice on a hypothetical in any event, but you know, there are standards and there are considerations that residential property owners enjoy that a municipal corporation just simply doesn't. So with that in mind, a private settlement agreement between the owner and operator of the site and the town gave the town an opportunity to negotiate and obtain something that the court itself couldn't even award. And if the town was successful in court and the court sent it back to Norwood, then it would be in Norwood's hands entirely, as you mentioned in your opening remarks. So the town really did something far beyond what could have accomplished through any other vehicle, and obtained relief and some rights here by contract that are far beyond anything the court could have awarded, or potentially even Norwood would have considered. We just don't know. So those are the sort of 50,000 foot sort of parameters of what the town was dealing with here. So I hope that is responsive.
That's helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So I just want to say that to the point that we did what we could, there was another party in this, and with the developer coming around to our requests in ways that it took time to get them to this point, so that we're satisfied that we have accomplished what we can. Indeed, one can always want more, but we worked very hard to address the three categories that Chairman Hickey outlined. And I think that the sound will remain an outstanding issue, that once there's hard data on the noise that comes from Amazon, that's something that abutters may want to take up with the owner of the property, because that was always something that the owners refuted and said that it couldn't possibly be worse than the prior tenant. And while we defer to the understanding that our residents have, we were not able to move the needle on that one. And I think once again that once they have the hard data, that would be something that they might want to consider pursuing. But this has been a hard slog to get to this point, and I think with the categories of issues that we were dealing with and the limited leverage that we had in these negotiations, I think this is the outcome that was best that we could achieve. And it's been 5 months, so it wasn't without a lot of effort to get to this place. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank my colleagues on the board for their diligence and effort as well in this whole process.
Thank you, Nancy.
Right. So I think that, you know, what the hardest thing is, you know, as an attorney, that people don't understand is that really permitting, for the most part, cuts off at the town border. So that Westwood, coming into the beginning, really has no rights in the permitting process. And that's part of the reason that we had such an uphill battle. And sometimes I think it's hard for, you know, people outside the law to understand that even though it really is right on Strasserad neighbors' doors, we really have no big fight in the, that we have a right to bring, because it ends right at the border. So I don't know if you want to just expand on that just a little bit. I know the case law that we went through at the very beginning gave us very little hope from the start.
Sure, and I'll be as brief as I can because this is the subject of a pending motion in the Superior Court. So if anyone's interested in getting into the weeds on this issue, there are very extensive briefs that are available on the court's website on it. But it's an uncharted area of the law, to say the least. Abutters directly to a property have standing if they're aggrieved, meaning if they're specifically and uniquely harmed by a permit issued on an abutting property. But there's really not much equivalent for that when it comes to an abutting town. And the zoning bylaws of Norwood don't really acknowledge such a thing, and it's a disputed claim. So we're forging into uncharted waters by bringing such a claim. And although we've made it and articulated it, and we filed a complaint, and we've been in court for 5 months now, the defendants have challenged it, and they're moving to dismiss on those grounds. And there's case law that supports both sides. So it's a very difficult position for this board to be in.
Thank you, Brian.
No one has anything else. Nancy, were you going to say something?
No, we couldn't hear you at first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So there are some questions and comments. Let me just take Gail Bean. You have twice referenced university. Gail, you are correct. The actual address is 732 to 750 Everett Street in Norwood. There's a question from Kathleen Martell. Does the traffic mitigation plan include the 300 employee vehicles that will be traveling to and from work, specifically on Forbes Road and Canton Streets? Nora, do you want to take that?
Yeah, it does not. It includes delivery vehicles, whether they're Amazon employees or flex vehicle drivers. It includes just the delivery vehicles, not the individual employees. Although Amazon did agree, outside of this agreement, they did say that they would instruct their employees and encourage them to take other routes. And they believe that that would be the case because the majority of their employees come overnight when traffic along Route 1 and University Avenue is much lighter. But the agreement that the town has negotiated with National Development does not address employees.
And then Nora, the next one specifically asks if you could give examples or addresses in Westwood of buildings that currently have opaque light shields in place.
Yes, so we have several of them. In fact, throughout the town, most light fixtures that are wall fixtures that were put into place in the last 10 to 15 years have light shields on them. But specific ones that I've been involved with recently, Knowledge Beginnings on Route 1 installed light shields because their lights were flowing onto one of the Carroll Avenue neighbors' houses, and they installed light shields, which solved that problem. The Colburn School, the town owned the facility at the time when there was a problem. We ended up selling the Colburn School building, but had some parking lot lights that the town was in control of. We had shields put on those to prevent the light from straying onto a Gay Street property, also very successful. Another example is AAA, that's on Providence Highway. There are some lights fixtures that are much higher than would be permitted today that were installed back in the 90s on that building. And they added light shields to many of them that have significantly reduced the amount of light trespass from those facilities. And another recent one is the Stagecoach Plaza on High Street. The back of that building had a couple of light fixtures that were higher than the 15 feet limit that we currently allow. And we had light shields added to those to protect the homes on Hartford Street. And again, they were successful. So the way a light shield works is it cuts off the source and forces the light down onto the property. So it doesn't let it go out horizontally. It makes the light just be a vertical source of light. And we have every reason to expect that the light shields proposed on this facility will do the same.
Thank you, Nora. There is a question from John Harding. When will the agreement be made public? What enforcement procedures exist to make sure the traffic restrictions are complied with? I believe, Pat Ahern, do you want to take the when the agreement will be made public? Pat or Chris?
We lost Pat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And Pat has dropped out of the call.
Okay. So my understanding is as soon as we have signatures from all parties, we will post it.
And we expect that to happen promptly. We have to take a vote first to agree to do it.
Right,
and then,
right.
Then it would go through council to the developer, the property owner, developers council for execution on their end.
So what enforcement procedures exist to make sure that the traffic restrictions are complied with? Brian, I might need you a little bit, but ultimately this is a contract between two parties. Both parties have obligations that they're expected to meet.
Yes, that's entirely correct. So it's a private agreement. It doesn't require any intervention from anyone else. We have the right to seek arbitration, mediation, go directly to court, and there are penalties if a party is found in breach.
Arthur from 44 Mill Street. Dedham is having a lot of trouble with tractor trailers and trucks increasing exponentially down 109, causing an unprecedented traffic buildup. Amazon drivers have also decreased safety on private roads because it is now near a distribution hub. Does Westwood have any such concerns? Main complaints from my renters, especially noise, heavy Amazon traffic, unsafe driving as they rush to deliver. So, you know, the expectation of anybody operating within Westwood is that they're operating lawfully. If we're hearing of these issues, we would engage whoever we need to deal with them. We are hoping that Amazon will be good neighbors. I'm not sure that there's much more to add, Arthur. I'm not seeing the next one.
Just scroll down. It's
Oh, there we go.
yeah, I mean, the Amazon, I think we have police enforcement, John, that you're referring to, that anybody has to adhere to the rules of the road. And those issues are unrelated to this agreement.
So there is a question from Fran Fusco. What route are these large Amazon trucks being instructed to use? Nora, correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea is that they would come out and head towards Route 1.
Correct. So they would approach Everett Street from University Avenue. In most cases, coming up from Route 1. In some cases, they will come off of the highway through Dedham Street, Canton Street area. They could come off of the highway at the University Avenue interchange. This agreement restricts their traffic when they're leaving the facility and going up Everett Street.
Not Canton Street.
I'd also point out that Canton Street is a truck exclusion already. So it's not, their tractor trailers cannot lawfully approach the Amazon facility by way of Canton and Everett. They have to come up Everett from University Avenue, and there will be enforcement.
Okay. I don't see any other thoughts or comments in the questions or comments in the queue. Are there any other questions or comments? These were really constructive and great. Okay. So
Mr.
at that,
Hickey,
yes.
I'm sorry it took me so long to get on. I had
Oh,
extreme
that's okay.
technical difficulties, but I could hear most of it. You don't know how frustrating it is when you want to speak and you can't, but it sounded like my colleague, Mr. Winter, did a more than outstanding job representing the councils to the select board.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, Michael and Nancy, if there are no other issues, it seems there are no other questions or comments in the queue.
Okay.
I'm prepared to take a vote if anybody wants to make a motion.
Yes, I move that we authorize Town Administrator Christopher Coleman to sign the settlement agreement negotiated with National Development for the Amazon warehouse located at 732 to 750 Everett Street, Norwood, Massachusetts.
I will second it and call the roll. Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Walsh, you're muted.
Aye.
okay, and I vote aye as well. So thank you all. It's a unanimous decision. And I thank, again, everybody who participated. I know a number of the participants are on and some of the neighbors. This was incredibly complex. And I think it's been a very constructive process. So I thank everybody for that. And with that, ends our agenda. We will be meeting again next Monday. Again, Monday, January 11th, 2021 at 5 p.m. via Zoom. And
Mr.
with
Chair?
that,
Mr. Chair,
sorry?
I know you already said your appreciations for the work of the staff. I'd just like to emphasize the work of Nora and Town Councilor Ahern working with special counsel on this. They really put a lot of time, effort, and really took the board's comments and made sure that the agreement came out the way it did. So I just want to thank both of them for their hard work.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Okay, thank you all very much. Good night.
Good night.
Evening, everybody.